Here's how our 68-year-old client went from pre-diabetes and blood sugar spikes into the 170s and 180s to eating carbs while seeing no spikes at all. Sherri was a wonderful client. She came to us with pre-diabetes and she was dealing with blood sugar spikes into the 170s, 180s, really wanted to get a handle on those to prevent them from happening. So it wasn't progressing into diabetes, but it was also reversing so that she didn't have to worry so much about going on medications or cutting out carbs, and she could just eat like normal. And Sherri was a client that was actually really lean, in fact, probably underweight. And oftentimes I think we associate high blood sugar, prediabetes as being associated with someone who's overweight, doesn't care about their health, is living and breathing with sugar and carbs. But for so many of our clients, that stereotype does not run true. And Sherri was someone that had already worked with 2 coaches in this bioenergetic, you might call it like pro-metabolic space, where they're really working on your metabolism to help with the blood sugar spikes, but didn't see any progress with that. She did a deep dive with her food and what she was eating, really eating clean and healthy. She was tracking her blood sugar with a Freestyle Libre CGM. She had eliminated sugar. She had given up one of her favorite things in baking. She had tracked calories and making sure that she was eating enough and eating 1,800 calories and 220 grams of carbs and 110 grams of protein and like 50 to 55 grams of fat. So it was super specific. She had followed all the glucose goddess, like glucose hacks, where she was eating greens before carbs. She was drinking vinegar. She was walking and exercising after eating, and even prioritizing her micronutrients, things like liver and oysters, and making sure she was getting in the nutrients to help her body process carbs and lower blood sugar more effectively. Yet, after doing all of that, her A1C still stayed at a 5.8, indicating prediabetes. And so for her, obviously very frustrating. It's like, I'm doing all of these things, all of the things that I'm supposed to be doing, yet my blood sugar is not budging. These are clients that we work with all of the time. They're seemingly doing everything right. They're eating healthy, they are staying active, they are watching their carbs, they are monitoring their blood sugar, yet their blood sugar does not want to budge. I am Isaac Pohlman. I'm a registered dietitian. I am someone with type 1 diabetes, and I'm the founder of the Pohlman Institute, where we help clients just like Sherri stabilize their blood sugar for good while eating carbs and without relying on medications to be able to do so. If that is something that you would like as well, just either DM us interest on Instagram or click the link in the description below and we'll show you how as well. Sherri worked with our practitioner, Christina. Christina is the absolute expert when it comes to women with prediabetes and insulin resistance, worked with so many of our clients on this exact same thing. And so with Christina, there are 3 things that Sherri really prioritized in our program. Number 1, building resilience to stress. I know all the time we talk about stress in the context of, well, it's something that we can't control. But the thing is, there's a difference between stressors, the things that we can't control, and stress. Now, the difference between both of these is stressors have the potential to create stress. Stress happens not just because we have a lot of stressors. Stress happens because we are not supporting our bodies well enough. And when we are not supporting our bodies well enough, we're more susceptible to the effects of stressors, right? So there's a difference. And when we're not supporting our bodies well enough, we're more susceptible to the effects of those stressors, to the point where it leads to more of that rise in glucose levels. It leads to more of that rise in A1C. It leads to those carb intolerances where we're spiking up into the 170s and 180s. We're having more difficulty tolerating stress. We're feeling more anxious and less ability to really calm down. All of those things can happen and make it more difficult to keep our blood sugar balanced. Now, when it comes to regulating stress, there's so many different ways of doing it, but what I will say in this video is the number 1 way that you really want to do this is tune into whatever helps you to feel more calm, more relaxed, or have more fun. Those are things that naturally oppose the effects of stress and really build our resilience to it and are really a part of nourishing our bodies. And I think so many times we look at that and like, well, Isaac, that's pretty simple. I mean, that's something that you learn in grade school. Have fun. Well, the thing is, as adults, that is the first thing to go, especially when you have responsibilities like kids and partners and jobs and homeschooling and taking care of a household. You have all of these things going on. The first thing to often go is the time that we have for ourselves. So it goes back to the notion that not only is that important, it's actually really essential if your goal is to stabilize your blood sugar and be able to eat carbs in a way where you're not spiking your blood sugar. So I would look at the feeling that something provides for you. And a lot of times when we ask people what they do for fun or what they do to slow down or what they do to relax, we might be often met with like blank stares because it hasn't happened for them in a while. So for you, it might have to go back to maybe before you had kids, before you had a job, maybe when you were a kid, maybe when you were a teenager or in college. What did you do for fun just for the sake of doing it? And if that gives you a visceral feeling where it feels like that would be really fun, it feels like that would be exciting, I would look into that. I would lean into that. And with this, it could be anything. It could be board games. It could be sports. It could be reading a book. It could be crocheting. It could be knitting. It can be arts and crafts. Whatever it is, you just want to make sure, one, it gives you that good feeling, but also, two, you have the space, the energy, mentally and physically, to be able to follow through on that. For many of our clients, when we ask them this, they'll recall things that they've done in the past as outlets. Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's sports, maybe it's, some more demanding activities that require more of their energy. And those are the ideas that come to mind because that's what they've done, maybe before their health went awry, and now their health has become the focus, and maybe they can't do the same things anymore because their health is where it is. Well, that's also a good thing in a sense where, okay, you have a North Star where you want to be, but let's also pay attention and use the lens of what is applicable in the here and now. What can I do in the here and now with the amount of time and the energy and the accessibility that I have? So look at that and see one thing that you feel like you would be able to do. The more that you have in terms of those activities, even if it's just slowing down and sipping your coffee after breakfast in the morning, it could be something as simple as that. Because, again, it goes back to the feeling that that thing provides for you. It doesn't have to be yoga or meditation or breathing exercise. It doesn't have to be any of those. It has to be something that resonates with you, though. And when you have multiple, you might feel like, oh, well, that thing doesn't really feel great today, but this thing does. And that's a secondary question you might follow up with yourself of like, okay, I have these things. I've already established that this is a good thing to have. What do I need today to support myself? And the more that you ask yourself that question, you can pull from those activities that you have and be like, yeah, this sounds good. I can fit this in at this time. Great. Awesome. Over time, that's going to be one of the most important things to regulate that stress. Number two, we help to rebalance our hormones. And when I talk about hormones, I'm primarily referring to circadian rhythm hormones. What is your circadian rhythm? Your circadian rhythm is referring to a group of hormones that your body releases during the daytime, so when it's light out, but also during the nighttime when it's dark out. And they help to facilitate different functions. In the daytime, we want to feel what? More energized, have more balanced blood sugar, have more focus, more productivity. Versus the nighttime, we want to feel more tired. We want to feel like we can fall asleep. We want to feel like we can stay asleep without waking up. So those are two opposing functions. Now, when we give our body signals of nighttime, when it's actually the daytime, these hormones start to go awry, or vice versa. When it's nighttime, when it's dark out, and we start to give our body signals that it's daytime, well, then those signals are also going to go awry, and we're not going to be able to produce the very hormones that we need to produce those functions of feeling energized and having stable blood sugar and feeling focused and productive and clear during the day. And we're not going to be able to sleep through the night as well. Those things get disrupted. And for Sherri, what was getting disrupted is her ability to tolerate carbs, her ability to keep her blood sugar stable after meals, and her ability to reverse her prediabetes, right? All of those things have circadian hormone links, because if you look at when you're sleeping for 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe sometimes even 10 hours. And through those 10 hours, and so for many clients, they have not eaten a meal for that length of time. So when they have a high fasting blood sugar in the morning, it's not due to those foods, it's due to these hormones that are causing a rise in that blood sugar. So the way that we balance out these hormones is essentially two things. One, we give our body the signs that it's daytime during the day, and we give our body signs of nighttime when it's night. Now, what are signs of daytime? Signs of daytime are going outside, getting exposed to the light outside, whether it's cloudy or it's sunny, getting exposed to the temperatures, wearing clothing that is not totally shielding you from those temperatures. For example, in the winter, we're not wearing like a huge parka that is keeping us really, really warm, but maybe we're wearing one layer less so we can get our body used to that temperature. Temperature and light and eating are those three signals that help these hormones stay within more balance, and therefore for us to regulate our blood sugar a lot better. At nighttime, it's being exposed to lights or artificial lights less. So less of the laptop, less of the TV, less of the artificial lighting here and back here. It's less of the phones. Those things produce blue light, and blue light is basically a signal to your body that it's daytime. And so if we're getting daytime signals, we're not going to be able to produce the nighttime hormones that our body needs to rest and repair and improve our insulin sensitivity so that our blood sugar looks good in the morning time. So that is also important. But also a secondary piece of this too is eating. Like if we're eating a bulk of our meals or a good amount of meals after sunset, that's going to disrupt our circadian rhythm as well, because that's another sign of daytime. And this is something that can increase our body temperature, make it more difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep, and therefore make it more difficult to improve things like insulin sensitivity. We're really at the core of how to improve and reverse prediabetes. What happens for many people that can contribute to this is they will eat very lightly in the morning, maybe delay meals, maybe skip meals, maybe don't have as big of a breakfast or as big of a lunch, and then it catches up with them at the very end of the day where they're having their biggest meal at the end of the day at dinner or evening snacks. And that's a pattern that can really throw off the circadian rhythm, because again, you might be getting some signals of daytime, but it's not those big signals that we need where we're having a big, dense meal that's really fueling us and supporting us for the day ahead. Thirdly, we really focused her mindset on more of nourishment rather than the numbers. And when you're a little bit more type A, when you really are more of an analytical, maybe a logical thinker, and you have a prediabetes diagnosis, your first thought is going to go in, okay, where are my numbers at? And it's never been easier to do that when you have like a CGM attached to your arm and you have your phone pulled up and you're like, well, my blood sugar is at this, my blood sugar is at that. And when that's your primary goal, it's very easy to not nourish yourself and just make food or lifestyle decisions only based on how it impacts your blood sugar. And I can tell you right now, blood sugar is only one aspect of health. And if we make decisions only based on how it impacts blood sugar, naturally those decisions are going to come at the expense of other things with our health, our hormones, our energy, our sleep, our cycles. All of those things that are also very important when it comes to overall health and well-being. For Sherri, how this was presenting is the stress that monitoring her numbers and paying attention and making sure she was staying in range was superseding her own nourishment. And so we really prioritized her looking at those parts of the meal that were actually really nourishing and energizing and stabilizing, and had her focus more on that than how that meal was going to impact her blood sugar. Because when you're just worried about how something is going to impact your blood sugar, you are in a state of fear. You are locked into that state of fear. And I think in the moment, it might not feel like stress, but when you step back and you look at it, I'm like, yeah, it is contributing to a layer of stress. And for so many clients of ours, when they shift this mindset, seemingly overnight, their blood sugar shifts too, because they're not coming into meals in this stressful state and worried about what could happen, but they're focusing on the positives of what that meal is bringing to them and the nourishment that it's bringing to them. The energy, the satisfaction, the feeling stable for hours and hours and hours, the reduction of symptoms that they're having. For many people, that might be related to energy or brain fog or tiredness or sleepiness throughout the day or after meals. Those are the kinds of things that you really want to be focused on, because the more that you can identify those small wins and really see the momentum that you're actually experiencing, one, you're going to recognize why that's the case and be able to double down on those patterns. But also, two, you're not worried about what could happen, the fear, the lack of progress, the not getting to where you want to be just yet. And when you do that, you make progress so much faster. It comes way easier with way less effort, and you're not fighting yourself. When clients are stuck in this mentality, it's like we give them the compass of where to go, the directions, the plan, the steps, and they see that direction, and that direction is north. And they're seeing that, and then they're choosing to go in the opposite direction. That's what we do when we're just worried about the fear of what could happen to our blood sugar. So after working with Christina on that for 6 months, Sherri went from prediabetes and blood sugar spikes into the 170s and 80s to not seeing spikes at all, and doing that while eating carbs. And a funny thing that she mentioned, if you see actually her testimonial video, is that she thought her CGM was broken because it was giving her all these great numbers, and it was like, that can't be right. I don't get those good numbers. But it was, because she was actually making big shifts. She wasn't looking at, what are these small changes I could do, like the glucose hacks that maybe are sexy ideas, but really don't pay off in real world results for so many people. She was actually creating the changes and addressing the root of the problem rather than something that was more of a gimmick. She also has a much better understanding around what her root causes are. I think earlier on, she was doing anything and everything that she could to seemingly help to lower her blood sugar back down. And the problem with that approach is it takes a lot of effort. It requires a lot of trying, a lot of trial and error. And it's not specific enough often to really give you the type of result that you're looking for. Versus when you are focused on the root cause and actually form solutions around addressing that, not only do you not have to put in so much effort, the results come a lot easier because you're actually addressing why your blood sugar issues are happening in the first place. For her, the stress, the circadian rhythm disruption, the lack of nourishment, those three things were keys as to why she wasn't helping her body to lower that stress, which would help to lower that blood sugar even while eating carbs. And so that's an important part, and there's no amount of glucose hacks that would do that, because at the end of the day, we don't have berberine deficiencies. We don't have vinegar deficiencies. There are people that actually don't eat their vegetables first and still have good blood sugar. There are people that don't take Avasitol and still have good blood sugar. So addressing those really aren't at the root. And for many people, they might see temporary improvements at best, but at worst, they'll do these things and they won't see any payback whatsoever. And by doing that, she was also able to support her body better, both by eating, but also by living, because that is also a form of nourishment. And so many times we think about nourishment as being, let's eat the right foods and you'll be all right. Well, for her, she was actually underweight, partly because of the stress that all of this was creating for her. And so we had to really work on her mindset around that too. Let's focus on not on the stress of what could happen, but actually on the things that are actually improving your nourishment, which can put on muscle mass, can put on healthy weight, can give you the nourishment, the nutrients that your body needs to process those carbs more effectively and actually feel good as a result. She went from stressing about the numbers, constantly being reactive to those, to feeling more at peace and really approaching her health from a standpoint of not hyperfixating and chasing the numbers, but by nourishing her body first. And altogether, she said that this approach was so life-changing for her, which that's the thing that we want. We don't want you to just see progress in the program. We want these to be lifelong, sustainable, workable habits that actually address, again, the root cause, so that you don't have to think about this again and can just enjoy carbs from here on out. When you're ready to lower your blood sugar, just like Sherri, while eating carbs, without relying on medications to be able to do that, just DM me the word interest on Instagram or click the link in the description below and we'll show you how.